Welcome to this episode about one of the most unique airports in the world and one of the most unique flights in the world as well. I'm going to give you some more information and show you why St. Helena Airport is such a special airport and why the flights are such a special operation. First of all, let's take a look where St. Helena is located. It's an isolated island located in the South Atlantic Ocean. It's about 2,000 kilometers from Africa and 1,100 kilometers from Ascension Island, which is the nearest land. It is a British overseas territory, and before the airport opened, it was only reachable by ship. However, in 2016, the airport was opened. The airport was built on a tabletop with very deep cliffs on both sides. On the first trails, however, it appeared the airport was dangerous to land. There was a lot of turbulence and very strong changes in wind during landing. Soon after that, the airport was named the most useless airport in the world, as airplanes weren't able to land there. More trials were done, however, and eventually the airport was opened in October 2017. At the moment, there is a weekly flight from Johannesburg to the island. It is relatively expensive, and it's also a very complicated flight operation. So the first issue with St. Helena is of course its isolation. There are no airports nearby. The nearest airport is Ascension Island, which is over 1,000 kilometers away. To compare that, if you would be flying into London, your nearest airport would be Madrid, which is of course very far away. By law, airplanes with two engines are required to stay within 1 hour from an airport in case of an engine failure. As you can see, there are no airports in between Walvis Bay and St. Helena, and thus there is no airport within 60 minutes. However, that can be extended in case for Airlink that is up to 2 hours. This is called ETOPS, which is extended twin operations. Basically, the airline trains pilots, engineers, and has a maintenance program that proves they are reliable enough to operate the airplanes further away from a nearest airport than 60 minutes. However, it's not so usual to see that on a small Embraer aircraft, like the one that is flown to St. Helena. So that problem was an easy problem to solve, as there are more than one airport in the world that has an isolated location. The next problem, however, if you remember, the airport opened later due to the difficulties to land. More investigation was done into the wind speeds and directions, and they were more able to predict when airplanes would be able to land and when not. Another mitigation which was done was more pilot training and having more experienced pilots fly to St. Helena. Of course, the island has occasionally strong winds, but it also has low clouds and rainy weather. While in normal airports that would not be an issue, for St. Helena it actually is a problem. You see, pilots use instruments for landing in major big airports. It allows them to get close to the runway even if they are flying into the clouds, until they can see the runway and land. But you guessed, it's not possible to do that in St. Helena, because there is some terrain around the runway and some mountains just across the thresholds. They were not able to install all of these instrument systems in the St. Helena airport, as they would be unreliable and could be disturbed due to the mountainous terrain. As a result, the airport installed some slightly less precise equipment, and they also made procedures using GPS, which are not affected by radio signals. However, these procedures were less precise. As a result, it will only lead the pilots to an area further away from the runway, at which they still have to see the runway visually to continue. In case of St. Helena, pilots would need to see the runway about 1,000 feet above the ground and need a visibility of 4,000 meters, while in a normal airport that would be only 200 feet above the ground and 550 meters. The requirements to land at St. Helena are therefore significantly higher than at normal big airports. As well, there are no facilities to land during night, so flights can only operate by day. Now let's take a look at the weekly flight to St. Helena. So the flight departs from Johannesburg to Walvis Bay, and then it continues to St. Helena. So why does it land in Walvis Bay? Remember, the aircraft is an Embraer 190. It's a regional jet with only 100 seats. They are normally not used for Atlantic flights. So the airplane will land in Walvis Bay to refuel, and then it will continue onwards to St. Helena. Why do they use such a small airplane? Because the airport in St. Helena only has a very short runway. Before the flight departs from Johannesburg, of course, they check the weather, and if the weather would be unsuitable, the flight would not leave Johannesburg. But there is something else towards this flight, which is the 4 hours suitable weather window in St. Helena. Basically, the airport needs to have good weather for about 4.5 hours to be able to accommodate the arrival and the departure of the flight. See, when the flight leaves Walvis Bay, it has enough fuel to fly to a certain point along the route to St. Helena, at which the pilots will check the weather. If the weather is suitable for landing, they will continue to St. Helena. However, if the weather would be bad, it would be too windy or low clouds, they would elect to fly back to Johannesburg or Walvis Bay. If they continue beyond this point, they will not have enough fuel anymore to return to the African mainland, so pilots would have to continue to St. Helena. However, imagine now we are landing in St. Helena and the winds are stronger, or it's unexpectedly raining and the visibility drops. For those who listened well in the beginning of our episode, there is an airport nearby which is called Ascension Island. It is only half the distance from the mainland, only 1,000 kilometers. So once the airplane reaches St. Helena, it is likely still possible that they would be able to reach Ascension Island. However, this is not a very suitable airport for them to land because Ascension Island is also British overseas territory, but it has a very limited amount of accommodations, and it's not really a touristic island you can just go on holiday, and therefore it's not a preferred diversion airport. As you can see, all these flights to St. Helena carry a lot of extra fuel, and therefore the cost of these flights is of course higher as well. I hope this video explains a little bit what goes behind the complicated flights to St. Helena, why sometimes flights don't manage to reach or return back, as well kind of an explanation why the flights are so expensive. If you want to see more videos about St. Helena, there are multiple videos on our channel, videos about flying there, and as well videos about visiting the island. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe.